everyone. I'm just going to get set up and ready for the class. Just double checking that everything's right on my computer, that we're in the right group, you know, all the good stuff. Hope everyone's having a good Sunday. And just get my computer ready here, so I might not see comments quite yet. Okay, let's make sure it's posting. Okay, where is my video? Just need to refresh. Yep, okay. Make that bigger so I can see you guys' comments. Does that look okay? I'm just gonna adjust things here for a moment while I wait for people because I'm in early. Okay, I'm just gonna turn my video on my computer for a moment just to make sure sound's coming through. So ignore the echo for a moment. That one. Okay, yeah. Hi, Carla. Can you hear me okay? Just need to adjust this a little bit. I'm just adjusting things. Good. Okay. One nice thing about an iPhone is it seems like it records well. Or my belly in the way. I'm just getting set up here, and then I have my camera a little higher than last time. Just so when we're going to cut things, I'll zoom in when we're doing the coloring, but when we go to cut things, then hopefully it will be all in screen. Oh, how's your morning going? You guys got lots of snow too? Yesterday I had to take the bus to go deliver a card, and it was so cold. I was just like, I came home and I'm like, I'm frozen. And it took almost 2 hours for me to warm up. Oh, you've been up crafting for a while. Yeah, me too. After this, I got to work on our class for the virtual retreat. Yeah, I guess winter is finally here. I mean, I always find it's winter around Halloween. Don't take my edge, but that's okay. I'll fix this. I just have a piece of paper over top of my mat so it doesn't glare. I'm gonna wait till it's actually 10 o'clock before I start anything. Just give everybody time. It looks like I am in the right group. Okay, good. Yeah, tomorrow I have to do inventory at work. We're only gonna spend 3 hours there though. And then I'm coming home and I'm gonna do more crafting. But today I gotta get the virtual retreat done, so I started writing out all the instructions this morning, and then how I just got to put the card together and take the photos and then put the PDF up. So lots to do today. That's okay. That's my goal, is to get that done, and then I got to work on November stuff. Well, I feel like we're all in the same boat at least. I have to actually message you after we're done, Carla, after I'm done here. Just because we're both doing a wiper card for the retreat, and I just want to double check that we are using different supplies for that. Oh, spoilers for anyone who, hopefully I didn't spoil anything there. I think it's okay because everybody's got their kits now anyway. And it's just you and me, so ignore that if you're not. Shh, spoilers. Okay. Might just be you and me today, Carla. Is there somewhere I'm supposed to share this? Might because it's just not 10 o'clock yet. Now it is. Oh, hi, Kim. Sorry, I started early just hanging out with Carla right now. Yeah, I'll send you what I'm doing too. I haven't made the card yet, but I'm basically know what I'm using. Oh, no, I'm not sharing anything. It's just, it was like just talking to Carla about what we're doing. I didn't think, oh, I get what you mean. Yeah, no, I just wasn't sure if I was supposed to put anything in the group itself, in the Crafty Club. Won't worry about it. If it's just me by myself, people can watch it later. That's fine too. Not quite sure how long it'll go up since I'm late on this. Again, thank you, Kim. Thank you for understanding. My little kitty's doing better this morning, so she's sleeping on the bed right now, but she seems quite content. Less dehydrated, less sick, which is important. And she's eating like a horse again, so yeah, no worries. Yeah, so I don't know. It's hard because I don't have a definitive answer of why she keeps getting sick. So we've done lots of testing. Might just because she ate something she shouldn't have. Maybe that's what it was. I don't know. Don't know what. She's an indoor kitty, but anyway. I'm gonna get started soon so that I am hopefully done by the time Shop the Box. I have lots of time here, so I should be done before Shop the Box. We are going to be making this cute little card, which has a special flap, and on the inside it has, I just have a little triangle here where I have the stamp and the sentiment on the inside. And there's spot, if you didn't want to put this, you could always just leave it blank so you can have lots of writing, but I tend to find sometimes these cards hard to write too much in, so it's nice to have a big image. Thank you. I've seen it online. It's not always, there are different ways to do it, but I just think it's kind of a fun, cool way to incorporate our stencils and our stamps and a little bit of pattern paper. And so what I'm going to do is, I think what I'm going to start with is cutting the paper. And I'm going to try and I have a piece of grid paper here so I can write down, I do have the instructions too, but write down as I go if there's anything that I miss on my instructions. So I'm just going to start moving all this out of the way and I'll get started here. If anybody's watching the replay later and has questions, feel free to ask and I will get back to you. Just tag me so that I know you're asking me a question. Okay. So I'm just going to pull out all my papers. I also have black. I'm just going to put the little owl to the side. Oh, thanks. If I don't have written instructions, I'm going to mess up, and I probably still will mess up. But I know me, I will forget if I don't have instructions. I'm pretty sure that I need to go get tested for ADD. Starting to think that maybe I should be using get some training on how to deal with life. I don't want to say I do have ADD because I don't know, but I'm starting to think maybe I do. Anyway, another day, another story. So I am going to start with making our card base, and I want to keep the owl in frame too. So just have my thing a little set up here a little differently than I usually do. So maybe I could just put him in the corner. Oh yeah, there's lots of room there. Okay. Just getting myself organized. So it's just, yeah, I just want some coping mechanisms for it. So I think it would help a lot if I can find out if that's actually what's going on with me. And even if it's not, just helping me focus better would be great. So I'm going to start with our card base, which is 8.5 by 11 cardstock. I use really thick stuff from usually Michael's, the 100 pound, because I like to have a really sturdy card base. So it's not, I mean, you're adding lots of layers to this, so it doesn't really matter if you're using like an 80 pound, but I cut my cardstock in half so that it is 5.5 by 8.5. I decided for this one I might do black, and I'm just gonna, I always use my trimmer to score my lines. Maybe not the best, but that's what I use. I'm just going to score it at 4 1/4, just like how we would normally do a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch card. I'm left-handed, so, I always tend to skip it over. It's probably better to use a scoring board. I am lazy. I also just find it too cumbersome. I need a smaller one. And then I just use the edge of our trimmer here, if you have the same one as me, to fold down. Line it up as best I can. I'm gonna move my trimmer over slightly and just reinforce that fold. So again, you should have a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card. And I just realized I covered over my instructions. Yeah, all right. So we are gonna need a ruler. Unless you're really good at finding the middle of things without a ruler, but I am going to grab a ruler because I am going to forget. And the first thing we're going to do with our card base is unfold it. I have a nice shiny silver one. And I'm keeping everything on my... Oh, good morning, Tamara. Hope you're doing well. I said Tamara, sorry, Tamara. Hope it doesn't matter. I am going to, you should use a pencil for this. I don't know where any of my pencils are at the moment. Oh, found it actually. It's hiding. And the first thing we're going to do is we want to make a mark at the bottom of our card base. So using our ruler, the first mark is 2 3/4. So find your 2 3/4. That one's an easy one, I find. And make a little mark at the bottom. That's halfway between our card base there. Oh, thanks. Thank you, Sabrina. Hope you're feeling okay. Oh, you got sun shining? I guess we kind of do. No, yesterday was so gray. It was like 2 o'clock and I felt like I needed to go to bed. I was just so tired all day. Anyway, so you make a mark at the 2 3/4. And then what we're going to do is from the 2 3/4 mark, we're going to go to each corner. We're going to cut and cut. So I'll show you first. Don't do it yet. Just watch me first, unless you know what I'm doing. So I'm lining up the little mark we made in my trimmer. And I'm going to the first corner at the top here. And we're going to line up as best we can. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect. And I'm going to cut. We need to hold on to this triangle that we made. Oh no, sorry to hear that, Sabrina. Blues suck. So that's our first corner. We're gonna keep, again, the black piece because that can be a matting layer. And then we are going to just turn our paper, and from that little mark, which I actually cut off there, but that's okay. We are going to line up the corner to the top corner now. On this side. Hi, Ellie. If you want, I can go back a few steps if anyone's watching and playing along. Otherwise, feel free to watch the replay or watch me do this and then come back to the replay. But I am just going to start cutting and I'll show you quickly. That. Again, keep both pieces and try to keep them facing up so that they're the right way. So I had that problem yesterday. And that will give you this triangle. So I'm just going to reinforce my fold again because this paper is very thick. And I find once you have layers, it'll let it go down too. Does anyone need me to back up a little bit? I'm going to try and keep the instructions in view too as best I can. I'm going to keep going otherwise. I'll just keep going. You always catch the replay, and again, I have the instructions hopefully here for everybody to see too. So this is going to give us our flap, and then our triangles are going to go here and here. But we're going to cut other pieces first. So now I'm going to take my pattern paper. If you didn't want to use pattern paper, you could take one of your stencils. That's okay. Hi, Mary Pat. I just started actually not too long ago, so feel free to catch the beginning if you're... I'm trying to... sorry guys, just reading your comments. I'm trying to work on this card and I keep moving my panels. Okay, here we go. I will have all the instructions. I have all the instructions in the group of hopefully the cut sizes, so but I'm just going through it step by step for anybody who might be new to cutting this type of paper. So I have, this will be on the inside panel, and I'm going to cut it to my pattern paper to 5 1/4 by 4. So I'm just going to turn this to the 4 mark this way. We're all going to have different pattern paper if you're making this card with me, so you know, if you want to use that, or if you want to use maybe like the present stencil, that may be a good thing to use. The layering present stencil. But I chose pattern paper. Oh, thanks. I've seen it online, and I have done it before. It's always a good way to use our stencil and like as much stuff in our little crafty club as we can. So this piece is going to go on the inside. And then this will fold down and it'll have this showing through. But we want to have room to write a little note on the inside. Unless you just want to leave it like that, it's up to you, but I will cut out a piece of white to put on the inside so that we have a little bit of a writing panel. So I'm just going to use my Bristol Smooth since I have that out. And for my inside layer, I need to cut my paper to 5 1/4 by 4. And I'll just keep any extras for later. If you're good at reserving paper for doing the inking on the outside, that's great. I'm not very good at figuring that stuff out, so I'd rather just use this, and I'll use whatever scraps for another project. Just move my stuff out of the way. Okay, so, oh yeah, there's my instructions, sorry for that. So yes, this was 5 1/4 by 4. Now we're going to have to do the same thing where we make a mark on the inside. So this, grab my ruler, and we need 2 5/8, which is the middle of this panel. Now I find it hard to know on a ruler like this where we don't have all the inches marks. So what I have is, it's hard to see on camera, so I'm not using it for this. But I have a ruler from one of my scrapbook stores that actually, I'll just hold it up hopefully to the camera a little bit here. Just make sure my camera, it's kind of hard to see. Maybe if I put a piece of white underneath. It has all of the inch marks on here. And I use this just as a guide because I am very bad at finding 5/8. So right now, if I look at this, my 5/8 mark is the second longest line after the half mark. So you go 2 marks over on your ruler, and that's your half mark. So find your 2 5/8, and we're going to use our pencil again to mark where that is. So I go 2, there's the half mark. Sorry, I think everybody's probably okay with that. I just suck at measurements sometimes. And I'm just finding the second longest line after the half mark. That's my 5/8. Oh, Sabrina, yeah, I'm not... I wonder if I could send one to you. I have to go to that scrapbook store. It's not close by to me, but maybe when I have a spare moment, I can run and grab one for you and send it over. So just like we did with our base, we're going to cut this from the middle and to each of the corners again. So lining it up in our trimmer, just like we did the other panel. Make sure you line the corners up to the black mark you just put down and cut. You can keep this for another piece. I'm not going to worry about that, like I said. I have lots of little scraps all over the place and I use them up for other things. lining up the corners again in my trimmer and cut. And that, yeah, mine I think is from, like, she has Scrap Addicts, which is the company, but I bet you I have seen them online through a company. I'll see what I can find for you, Sabrina, online. I feel like one of the main companies made one. So this will stamp after we get all our layers cut, and that will give you an inside for the writing. Oh no, sorry Ellie. Okay, no worries. If you have any questions, feel free just to tag me. Okay, so that's our writing layer. We got our pattern paper layer. We got our triangles. And we need to cut our layer for the stenciling. So I'm going to cut it and then I'm going to ink it, but I'm not going to do the triangle cut yet. Hope that you understand what I mean by that. So our ink blending layer, if you want to do this instead of pattern paper like I did on my card, it is again 5 1/4. Oh, sorry, ignore that. It's 5 by 3 3/4. It's the one that's a little strange, I find. So I'm gonna cut that. Seeing if this is 3 3/4 because that would make my life, oh, almost 4. Perfect. I can just cut a little bit off. Okay, you're cutting paper about 5 3 3/4. I'm just gonna do it this way because then I can save the bigger piece for something else. Nope. Sorry, brain fart. I'm sure we all have those. Yes, okay. Almost did the wrong piece of paper. Just because I was trying to save paper, but it's fine. So, we're going to put this aside, and we're not going to cut this one yet. We're going to ink it first, and then cut it. I find that easier than trying to figure out how to line it all up. But I'm going to put that aside. And we just need our matting layer. Now that can be optional, but I did like how it looked with a little bit, although I had a hard time lining it up when I was gluing it. I don't know if I cut my dimensions wrong on the panel, but I do like having a little bit of a border. Now that I'm using black instead of the gray, yeah, I think I still will, just to keep it consistent. So I'm going to grab a piece of gray pattern paper because there's gray in my pattern paper. Sorry, not gray pattern paper. Gray cardstock because there's gray pattern paper in, sorry, gray in my pattern paper. Ugh, words are hard today. All right, so E is our matte layer and we're going to cut that to 5 1/4 by 4 as well. Now, E we need to mark at 2 5/8 as well. So I'm just grabbing my ruler again. I do find marking the middle is easier than me trying to figure out the middle after and doing it exactly right. So again, I go to my 2 1/2 mark. My second biggest line is the 5/8, 2 5/8. And again, same thing like we have been. It's all just, it's actually pretty easy once you know the dimensions. I think the hardest part is gluing and making sure you're cutting, keeping those triangles in the right way. I think if you flip them up backwards, they're not exactly equal, even though they should be other triangles, but you know. Oh, is Kimmie having trouble too? Yeah. She has a whole shop the box to do, so that's gonna be hard for her. She's losing words. I'm at least just making one card. All right, so now I'm gonna move my trimmer out of the way. Yeah, I wondered. I was like, I don't think Kim's been on today. Maybe you're watching her video from yesterday. So we have gray triangles. We have black triangles. I'm just seeing, oh yeah, my gray is gonna go on top of my black. I'm gonna glue these together and then we're gonna ink our panel and we're gonna put that, and we're gonna cut that and then that's gonna go on top. So I'm just gonna glue these triangles together. You just wanna make sure they're as equal as you can. We're gonna move this triangle out of the way though. I'm just putting the black layer and the gray layer together. I like Nouveau glue for my glue. It's my glue choice. If I wasn't going on a trip to Florida for Christmas, maybe ask for the glue press, which is that glue gun type thing that helps you press the glue bottle. So it's, anyway, just something I'm like kind of interested in that. I think Carla has one. Or I think I've seen Carla use one. And so I'm just gluing these together so that they're done. It's a pretty thin border around your matte layers. So I find it is a little bit difficult to line up. You may want it thicker if you can figure out the dimensions better. Oh, is it spenny? I haven't even looked at the price because I'm trying to find alternative ways to do things so I don't obsess about buying all the things. So I have a few hacks for when we get down to the next layer. I'm just put these ones aside for now and I glue actually I need to glue the inside too. Just move it out of the way. So I'm not going to glue the white triangle on top of this yet because I think it's easier to stamp it. Well, it's not in your card. Made that mistake yesterday. So I'm just going to glue the pattern paper into the inside of the card. Again, thank you everyone for letting me reschedule the class. I said that at the beginning of the video, but my kitty's doing better. So, for now at least. And she's just sleeping on the bed. She'll probably scream for food soon, but her timer will feed her, so. But if you hear any meowing, that would be her. Actually, she probably won't until, because it's not quite 12 o'clock our time yet. So, just glue that in the inside. Again, like I said, I'm going to glue this one last, but it'll go here. Oops. You always got to make sure your triangle's in the right way. And that will fold down, and then you won't see the inside message until you open it. Aw, thanks. Yeah. It'd help if I knew what was going on with her. I was worried she had cancer. But I'm still worried she has cancer. But she is eating really well, which is good. But Monday she was very dehydrated. Luckily, she's got a vet tech for a mom who can rush her to the vet and put her on fluids and meds and all that stuff. So I'm taking our layer panel, and this is just my gel press. That's why it's so messy looking. I actually have been using it more for holding down my stencils. I don't know if you've seen the Honeybee, I think it's Honeybee, makes those sticky mats you might see on YouTube and stuff like that. I really wanted one, and yeah, if only they, well, that'd make my job so much easier if they could talk. I really wanted one, and it kept, like, I was so close to buying one, and then I just thought, you know what, I wonder if my gel press would do the same thing. Gel press does have minerals in it, so it might leak onto the back of the paper, but because I used really thick cardstock, it hasn't really been a problem yet. But I'll just show you. It's going to hold down the paper really well. And then I'm putting our stencil, and you can do your stencil any way you wish. I'm just going to do it this way. And I'm just lining that up. And it sticks really well. You can use your pixie spray if you want. You can use your magnetic boards. That's how I used to do it, was I used to put magnet in the middle, ink around the magnet, and take the magnet off and ink the middle. But this just holds everything down nicely. So I'm going to use Green Goblin ink, or Goblin Green ink, because that is our ink of the month. And I found it kind of bright. So didn't quite match the green in my pattern paper. So I actually used soft sage too. And that just gives the green a little bit of a gray color and makes it a little bit darker. I'm going to use my paper pouncers, and thanks to Kim, I found these on Amazon. And I love them. The other thing you can do, I have seen some of my crafty friends just use like the makeup sponges with the round edge on them. But your ink's got to be really, really juicy for it to work, I find. This doesn't release, for some reason, the same amount of ink as this does. If you don't have that, you can use your brushes, you can use your your blender sponges and stuff like that. But I just find this really fast when I want just a full ink coverage. And the nice thing is this holds my ink pad too. You should open up an Amazon store and just sell us all the stuff that you find on there. So I can just show you what this looks like with just the Goblin Green and why it doesn't quite match my pattern paper. I love this green. It's a beautiful green. It just wasn't quite a match. Obviously you're going to use whatever color you want. I like using green on the white, just because I find like I'm using lots of blacks and grays, and just having a nice contrast with the white helps. But the other thing I like to do with is ink the whole panel with one color and then use a darker one on top, and it really makes the line stand out too. But I just chose white and green today. So when I brought in my pattern paper, you might not see it very well because again, different screens, different colors. You know what, with this one it might actually match Fresh Fields better, but that's okay, because maybe you don't have Fresh Fields and maybe you have the other greens. One thing I do is then I'm going to move the Goblin Green aside, and I'm going to take my soft sage and just going to add it to the same dauber and just lightly pounce over it, and that's going to darken up my green. But then it's going to still be that, like sage green's very gray green. I still want it to be like a true green. If I wasn't worried about lining up the stencil properly, I would lift this up and show you the difference between the two sides. But the other thing you could do is you can take maybe your granite gray and ink that first and then put the green over top. And that could gray out your green too. And I'm okay if it's not even. Yeah, you can. Again, Fresh Fields probably would have matched my paper better, but I wanted to use our Goblin Green. And take your stencil off, and there you go. And I'll give you that layer. And then we're going to cut this one to make our triangles. So I'm just going to move my gel plate out of the way. Bring back in my trimmer. Hey, it's only half an hour. I'm doing okay. Ink out of the way for now. And so on my instructions, our matte layer is E, which we want to cut at the 2 5/8 as well. Again, bringing in my ruler, measuring it out. Two and a half, 2 5/8. And if it's okay if it's not perfect. We are not Hallmark. We are better than Hallmark. That's what people say anyway. So then I'm just lining up my mark again, cutting the paper, keeping that, put that aside, rotate your paper, line up the corners. There we go. And we have an instant pattern paper. I'm bringing in my card base again, and I'm going to add my gray layer on top of here. And this card I find will fold flatter once. You might want to put a block on it after, if you need to. I'm adding lots of thick layers of paper, so I find if I just let sit a block on top for a bit, it'll fold up nicely. Okay, I'm just making sure my gray is lined up here better than I did yesterday. Like I said, I think I got my paper on yesterday, but that's okay. Nope, see? Not the best at lining up paper sometimes. It's better. All right. Then you're going to take your piece of paper that you just inked up and you find your triangle. And you're going to glue that and add it to the top here. I also have something, if you stick to the end, I have one little thing I'll show you with the stencil too that I found out this morning. That's pretty cool. So if you're watching this and you're like, yeah, I just want to find out what the secret was, I couldn't stay for the whole video, just fast forward to the last 5 minutes. I'll just show you at the end. I'll make sure this card's made before I show you something like that. Now, is that wrong way? No, it's got to be the right way. Again, like I said, the margins on here are pretty tiny. Clean up the top a little bit better. That's why I like using glue too, so I can lift it and try again. You know what? Maybe if I unfold this, that might make it easier too. It's one of the three. I think I need a new paper trimmer eventually here, because my paper trimmer just doesn't seem to trim things straight sometimes. Sorry for struggling here for a second. Wonder why that's doing that. So just slide that over a bit. Good enough. Nope. Sorry guys. By the time I do this, I'm going to need more glue on it again. There we go. Maybe I line up that corner instead. That's what I'm struggling with. Put up slightly. There. Yeah, I used to embrace the fact that I don't make things very straight, and it's fine. And it is fine, because you're going to be covering this up anyway. It's not the end of the world. People aren't going to notice, and if they do, just tell them, oh well, that's how I made it. And I'm just going to add these to the bottom here. And I just want to check something in case I cut my layers wrong. Maybe that's the problem. Not quite sure what's going on. That's the cut. I think I might have messed up my layers here. So if you haven't glued everything together, you could always just take the gray part, and you're gonna, this is basically covering all the gray anyway, and make it the pattern paper. Actually here, wonder if I had them upside the wrong way too. We're just gonna do this, maybe. So if you put a matting layer and you made a mistake like I did, you could just do that and leave it, or recut the things. I'll figure out what I did there. Maybe. Oh, thanks, Sabrina. I probably did. So you could redo it and stuff like that. but I'm just gonna go with this. So if you're following along and you made the same mistake as me, you can just flip this over. It's not gonna have a gray layer, but that's okay. But if that bugs you, you may want to just redo the steps, and I should have cut. This is why I don't do this in so many layers sometimes. So I think you marked E, but ink layer is D. Okay, so I wrote down the wrong thing down here. Yes, it is. So my panel is supposed to be 5 by 3 3/4. And I will look through that and put a note saying that I made a mistake on this, and we're just going to keep going so that we can keep making this card. I will figure out what I did there and get back to you guys. Following a tutorial online, so I thought I wrote everything down right, but I probably didn't. This was probably supposed to be cut at a different spot, but that's okay. Luckily, this matches my black piece pretty good, so we're just going to do that. Move on. So that's that one, and this one, and I need my other piece of green. Might look silly with the gray at the top, but that's okay. Not gonna worry about it. This one will just look different than the other one. So instead I'm just adding this, which gives me more. Did say that the matting layer was optional anyway in the instructions. Cutting. Looks nice with a second mat, but also this looks fine too. Oh, Ellie, trust me, I do it all the time. So what we're gonna do is this piece, we have two options. We can either glue this like I did for my first one. You want to make sure when you're gluing this piece on that this corner and this corner line up to your black. So black to black. I did that a little bit wrong on my first card. Because if these points aren't lined up at the bottom, it's not so much the sides as other than making sure it fits in your envelope. But if these points aren't lined up on the bottom, I find that the card doesn't necessarily sit straight up and down. So they're going to crisscross like this. So you can either do it like this, or other people have done it on the back side. I'm going to do it on the front, because that's how I did it in the instructions. But do it the way you want. And when we're adding glue, I'll move my fingers out of the way. I'm just wanting to add glue to just the bottom, like the back of this. I don't want to add any glue over here, because then that's going to glue that accidentally to that. So what I do is I just kind of flip over, figure out my middle here. I'm just going to glue just like a little bit of the top here. Again, line up the black at the bottom corner and the black at this corner. Best you can. Hold it there for a few seconds. Let's get out of the way. So I like glue too, is even though I have to hold it there for a few seconds, I can adjust. And then this one's going to go over here, same thing. Oh, I'm off camera. Like I said, you just don't want to make sure you don't get glue on that side. Line up the bottom corner to the bottom here, and the side to the side. I'm just holding that in place for a moment. Now, I have a little gap under here. What you can do is take a little piece of paper. And since I have a little bit of scrap, I could just cut a little bit of paper there. You can put a little glue dot there if you're worried. In my first card, I actually didn't do anything because my circle covered most of it. So it's up to you. If that bothers you, you can put a little piece of paper underneath, and that way it won't sit up. Because I have the gray pattern paper, or gray base on the bottom here, it's making it stand up a little bit more. So the other thing you may want to do is flip your card inside out. And thanks, Sabrina. I'm going to just hold this up kind of at an angle, and I'm just going to slide a little bit of glue here. And that way, that'll stick down better. And same thing on this side. And that way I don't have to worry about, oops, I accidentally got glue where I shouldn't. I mean, that looks kind of cool, just like it is if you didn't want to put something on the front, but we're going to put our cute little owl on the front of here. So we need a circle to cover up this part, and then our owl is going to go on top once we color him. So I'm just going to cut this little circle with some black pattern paper. Or no, sorry, gray. I'll do gray just because we did that with the matting layers. So I'll be right back. I'm just going to cut this out quickly with my trimmer, or my scissors. Be right back. And this can just go right here. And our owl's gonna go on top. But we're gonna emboss this, unless you want to just leave it gray. Okay, no worries. Thanks, Sabrina, for watching what you can. Hope you can eat some food and keep it down. And our owl's gonna pop up on there. But we'll just put that aside because we do need to add some embossing to that. I am going to take out my Misty and stamp the inside triangle. If you haven't stamped your owl out, you could do that at the same time. I think I might simplify the coloring a little bit, just so that you guys aren't here all day. No, I'll decide once I get there. So again, you're gonna wanna line up your triangle on the inside without gluing it down. At first, just make sure you're facing the right way. Again, this panel will cover that, so you want to make sure that that will be lined up. Looks right to me. And I'm just putting this into my Misty. If you accidentally had stamped, or accidentally did like I did yesterday, glued it down and then did this, you can stamp on the inside still. I just find because I use thick cardstock, it was a little bit difficult. So I like to do it separately. So taking our stamp, I'm going to grab out the owl, and I had used May Your Heart Sing at Christmas, but I think I'm going to use Have a Tweet Holiday this time. And just take our owl first, place him in the middle. You may want to have some room at the top and the bottom if you want to write a message. Don't necessarily need to put the owl. But like me, sometimes I don't know what to write on the inside, and this gives it a little bit of space. I'm going to take our granite gray and stamp our owl. And why I'm using the Misty is I do find sometimes my stamping I don't always get all the spots. So this way if I make a mistake, and I'm just lightly pressing him down, just make sure everything's stamped okay. If you're like me and you miss a spot, you may want to go back in and just do that. And there's our owl, and he's kind of watermarked a little bit on there. And then I am going to take, like I said, Have a Tweet Holiday this time. I'm going to clean my stamps after so you guys don't have to sit there watching me clean stamps. And I'm just placing it over top of our owl. And taking, again, our Green Goblin ink, or whatever ink you chose to match your card. Stamp over our owl. Now, my Green Goblin ink is getting a little bit low from using it all month. So I'm going to take the soft sage and restamp as long as it's in the same position. It'll darken up that green again. There, that's better. Now that that's done, you can either add snowflakes if you want to add a little bit more, but I'm just going to glue it as is into my card base. So again, it's pretty easy to line up as long as you make sure you had stamped the right spot, because it kind of spans the whole pattern paper there. It should be relatively in the same place as your black, and the black covers it. All right. So before I color our owl, that pretty much covers our card base other than our background panel. If you had used pattern paper, you could glue it down right now. I'm gonna, like I said, emboss some white snowflakes on here. And I need to color our owl, and he is just gonna go in the front. I'm almost done here. So maybe I'll do that first. I'm just gonna close my glue before I forget. Pulling back in my Misty. And you want to, if you're gonna do the heat embossing on here, you want to do that before you put the owl on. It'll be hard to do after. I'm gonna just take my magnets and adjust that a little bit because it always seems to. It's the only one that I do want the honeybee stamp stuff for is this. So I do hate that this moves. So we are gonna take our little snowflake, or sorry, not our snowflake, our circle. I'm just gonna put a little bit of a magnet here and here to hold it in place, and then I'm gonna grab out my snowflakes. And actually, before I use that, I need to put some powder down. So grabbing my anti-static powder. And if you wanted to use stamp block instead of your Misty, your stamp platform, good. Because I have this out, I'm going to use this. And grabbing my Versamark ink, I'm going to place my snowflakes down where I want them. Be there. I'm just going to quickly emboss this. So it'll make nice little dainty snowflakes if you use some powder that's, or some of your embossing powder that's detailed. I'm just rotating this. Move this up a bit. So we're having a platform that has with the new stamping platforms that you can rotate things, might make it easier too. Said I'm not super worried. I'm just stamping them all at once just to save us some time. I also find it warps the paper less if you do it this way instead of, oops, rotate it a little bit more. Or you could just take your stamp and put it down, which I'm going to on this one. A lot of these snowflakes might be, oops, might be covered anyway. Like I said, having a stamping block might be easier than doing it the way I'm doing it. That's okay. And then I'm going to move the big one out, and I'm just going to put a few of the small ones in and heat emboss that quickly, and then we'll get to coloring. Does anyone else have snow? Like I know Carla and I do, and Tamara. Anybody else getting snow? Like is Ontario yet? I know Danielle had a lot. I like just filling in with the small snowflake, just so that I have kind of a almost like 3 snowflakes. Not worried about the middle because our owl's going to cover most of it anyway. Okay, that's good enough. Just take this out. Like I said, if you wanted to use powdered paper to make it faster, that's fine too. I did in my original one. Yeah, I'm not feeling very Christmassy yet either, Carla. We finally booked our trip to Florida, so I am excited for that, and as my boss said, it's going to happen, like, I'm going to feel like it's going to be here in no time, flat, and right now I'm just more like, oh, I gotta get so much stuff done, so that's okay. Christmas will come. Luckily, I don't have to buy a lot of presents, because we're just going to buy presents when we're in Florida. As long as the kids remember that. My niece and nephew have been told many times you're going to get presents when we go. But that doesn't necessarily mean they remember that when it comes time to Christmas. So we're just doing stocking stuffers for Christmas. If you're like me and maybe I got a little bit of oil from my fingers on here, you take a little paintbrush and just wipe down a little bit of the mess if you know, like there's a little bit here. Doesn't have to be perfect, it's a background piece anyway, but I missed a little bit there, but that's okay. All right, we're just gonna emboss that. Just let my heat gun warm up for a few moments. You want to tilt in the light, see if there's any areas you missed, but I'm not worried about it. Because we gotta get coloring. So I'll just sit there, and our owl will just go up here and kind of find a spot that has less snowflakes. And most of the owl's covering it. That's okay though. Still cute and gives you something patterny. If you wanted, you could have masked the owl on the front first, and so you knew where he was gonna sit, but that's okay. All right, so we're gonna go on to coloring, and I'm gonna zoom in a bit so that you guys can see what I'm doing. I'm just grabbing out my little sticky pad, which is just a Cuddlebug plate with a piece of paper and repositional tape, so that I can just stick this down since I cut out my images before I color. And I'm gonna pull out my markers. Okay, and I'll zoom in and try and angle it a little bit so that my fingers aren't quite in the way. Okay, let's see. Yes, zoom. Just just gonna move my card out of the way for a moment so that I can make sure my markers are, ignore my belly. It's giving me a little bit of a shadow. I have it at a position that's a little bit different than I normally do. Okay. So we are coloring, I colored him up sort of like a snowy owl, although I did look at photos this morning and went, my owl is a little darker than a snowy owl, but that's okay. You can color him whatever way you want. But I am going to use the markers I listed. So starting with my W1. Actually, that's in the corner. Can you see that? Just waiting for my camera to catch up. Yeah. Okay, I am going to start with the top of his head here. I'm just adding in a little bit of shading on the top there. And then come around his face a little bit. I'm going to color under his beak. And add a little bit, I like to add a little bit of shading on the top there. I am pretty much mapping out my shadows on here using my W1 to begin with, and then I go in with my darker markers and kind of work my way out. So with his wings, I am going to come down here and add quite a bit around where a cast shadow would be because his head's in front of his wing. And then I'm just lightly adding that all the way up and over. Same with this side. You may want to do it one piece at a time, but that's okay. I'm going to do it this way to begin with. So you can kind of see where all my shadows are. And I'm just mapping in the color first, and then I add texture after I'm done coloring the base first. You'll understand what I mean, I think, once I get to it. Okay, I'm not worrying about the inside of the wings yet. We'll come down here and around his feet. Make sure this area is darker around his feet. So it'd be cast shadow from his feet on there. And then I like to put, actually I'll worry about that after. Okay. Then I'm going to take my W6. And this is my darkest. So I'm just using this very sparingly. And just adding a little bit of shading to either side of his head up here. When I did my original, I did do this all dark and then added white over top. So it's up to you. But I think I'm just going to come around his earmuff band, because that would cast a shadow on top of that. And I'm going to leave the middle lighter. I'm not going to worry about his face here because I want to keep that the lightest at the moment. I'm going to come down by his wings, and there would be a little bit of a shadow here. And I'm not going up quite as far as I had left my W1. But I do find that I want to bring that all the way up to here. I'll move my hand out of the way so you can see. It looks really dark on camera, but once we blend it out, it'll look less dark. Again, I'm just using this as my cast shadow right now. It'd be a shadow under the present. If this is too dark for you, you can always just use W3 as your shadow too. I like a lot of contrast in my images a lot of the time, so. And then just up the side here. And I will use the W6 on his nose, but I usually do that last once I've done the head. I'm now going to my W3. Sorry if I'm speeding along, I just want to add my color down, and then I will add the texture and show you how to do that. And extending that dark shadow that I already did. I'm leaving a big gap here. So I want my wing tips to be the lightest up here. If you want him to look lighter than I did, you want to make sure that you're just keeping your shadow pieces a lot lighter. But I do think you need some contrast between the dark and the light so that it doesn't look like you didn't color. And then I do take my W3 and go into the face. This will be my shadow for the face because I want to make his face the lightest. I'm just coming around the ear muff. On this side, coming around the ear muff. Down where that's going. Above the nose. Under the nose, or the beak. And I tend to do 2 layers when I'm coloring a lot of the time. So feel free to do that. Me too. I'm definitely gonna do a cardinal next. I'm kind of going through the birds and and doing them in order of I definitely need to do the other owl bird or whatever. I mean, it doesn't have to be an owl if you didn't want to. I'm making him an owl, but the owl with the envelope is so Harry Potter. Oh, sorry, I've taken my W1 and then just extending my shadows out. And then I'm just leaving a gap at the top and the bottom here and just making a little line with my W1. Same with this side. And that'll give us a little bit of white tips on the wings. Down here, just coloring in. I'm just going to leave some white though, so that it looks not so gray. Looks a little bit more whiter. You could take your W0 or your colors blender and color that in. I unfortunately need to get a refill for my colorless blender. So that's why I'm just trying to keep white spaces on here. But normally that's what I would do. Okay. Now, if you're happy with the shading, which I'm going to be for this, I'm going to go in and start adding texture. I'm going to start by taking my E41, which is a very light, almost gray brown, and adding this in because I found that I needed to add a little bit of the gray brown in just so that it didn't look like it was a black and white image, just more looked like a gray bird, gray owl. And I just add it in little bits. And add some to the top of his head. I definitely need to add a little bit more on that. I'm just coming in kind of where the W1 left off. And then when I add my second layer of color to there, it'll blend in a bit better. Add a little bit over his face. But it's almost like you shaded your image, now you're just adding a little bit of light into there. Don't have to if you don't like that look, that is fine. Then I'm going back to my W1 and I'm just starting to add little like marks on him. Just dabbing my pen. By doing so, that'll give us a little bit of texture. Go over the whole top of his head there. Come over here. Like I said, I'm speeding along. I am going to add my W6 in again. Just where I feel like I lost my shadows. Put it under here. And by adding this a thicker, darker line to the bottom of this feather line, it will cast a shadow onto these feathers. And the present again. Did miss his chest there, so I'll have to come back and do that. And you can always use this little dark color to add in your texture too, a little bit. And as you go down the markers, you'll blend it out a little bit. W3. I like to do the feathers last, just because then I can see how dark I want to make them. Got a little dark in my face, so I'm making that part a little darker. And W1. Let's color his whole head. I'm going to, but I made his wings a little darker than I wanted. It'll all look lighter once you add the other colors in too. But for now, like I said, just dabbing in some texture. His little chest here, I'm just going to color in with W1. Leave a little white in there. If you are like me and you lost some of your white, you may go in with a gel pen after and add it in. All right. Then I'm taking my W8, or you can use a gel pen if you're scared to, and I'm just going to start adding in my face here. So just going around his eyes. I'll make them nice and dark. And then in his beak, leaving a little gap in the middle and under the beak. Then I take my W6, blend it out a little. And if you want, you can add a little gel pen to that. I'm going to add gel pen to his eyes. I did add a little bit to the top of the beak too. All right. So, when I looked at snowy owls this morning, because I was wondering if I liked my snowy owl, but it was a little darker than I wanted. He's still a little darker. So made a blackbird instead. I realized that I made the feathers a little too dark on my sample card. So I'm going to take my W3. And I am going to say my shadows are coming in at this direction. So we have our U shape. I'm going to add a little bit of shading to the one side of the U's. To the right side of the U's. And then I'm going to make sure that the bottom is really shaded. So almost covering all of it. These ones down here, I'm not going all the way down. If you did, it's okay. But I want the tips to look whiter. So I'm just coming down a little bit. But these ones should be shaded. And then from each wing, so if our wings are going like this, I'm going to go from the top, I'm adding just a little line to each wing. Or each feather, I should say. I'll move my fingers out of the way in a second so you can see what I did. Okay, that is just giving us some texture in our wings. Now I'm going to rotate this slightly just to get to the other wings. And same thing, except now I'm going to the left of each wing. Make sure your shadows are kind of all following the same direction on each wing. So each feather, sorry if I said wing again, each feather just coming to the left of. And then down the middle. Just draw a single little line from the top to the middle. Just rotate him back a little bit. And then I need to add some more down here. So I'm now coming to the right of each of these feathers. And then the left of these feathers. And then in the middle of the big one. And you can do the same thing like you did on the other side, or on the other feathers. Add a little line. If that's too hard for you, just color them in. Doesn't matter. But I am going to blend out with a little bit of W1. And I'll call him, I need to add a little bit of blending up here again. So, otherwise his eyes look like they weren't finished. And now I'm just coming with my W1 and I'm just coloring over where I just colored, extending my little line down. So that's just giving me some shading, but also leaving some white so that you can see each individual feather. Softens it up a little bit too. My little feet down here I missed, so I'm going to color them in W8. And I just follow Sabrina's little lines here, and up and over. I'm leaving a little bit of gap where the white is. And then there'd be a little bit of a dark on the top. Not always the best coloring feet, I will say that. And then I'm going to take my W6 and just add in where I just did. And leave a little gap if you're good at that. I'm just going to come in with my gel pen and add it in. Just so that they don't look like they're not individual toes. Just curling there. So to add texture to our wings, you can add gel pen, which I'm going to. I'm just going to reinforce that line that I made with my gel pen, and I'm just taking a very thin gel pen. Actually, I'm using a micro liner. I'm just adding that little line that I did with the grays. That'll give you a little bit of texture too. When I was looking at snowy owls, it's up to you. You can always make these tips a little darker, which I might do. But by drawing it in with my pen instead of my markers, it'll look really black on the tips of each feather. But also, I like the scratchy look of it. And that's also just given the feathers each a kind of an individual look, so that they're not all just one blob of color. But I get that that's a little bit more advanced for some. Same on this side, just to make them consistent. There's a line, 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 line. And then again, at the bottom of each feather here, I'm just going to add a little squiggle. You can even miss some feathers if you want, but I like having kind of the texture on there. Yeah, and then you can see that each feather kind of has its own texture. I think I'll do it down here too. So I'm just going to come up from the bottom of each of these points and then draw a feather down, line down. Because this one is the big feather on the bottom, I'm going to add a little bit more, so that you can see that. That just gives them some texture. So lastly, we gotta just color the present and the earmuffs, and then we're done. And then I gotta glue them onto our front of our card. So I do struggle sometimes with adding in details on presents. So one thing, if you're struggling with like the 3D shapes, is look up photos. Look up, I like to look up on Pinterest, you know, basically a 3D present illustration. I like to look up illustrations so that they're drawn kind of similar to how we are. I'm gonna make my present, I did red on my present on the first one. I'm gonna make the present green and the earmuffs red this time. So starting with my YG03, one thing is figuring out where your light is. So I think the front of this present here should be the lightest. So I'm just going to cover all of it in the green except for where my bow is. Leave that white for now until I decide what I want to do. And then I am also going to color this side of the present, but we're going to add some shading to it. I'm going to come to the top, and I'm just going to go over here. Okay, so you did all of it in YG03. And then I'm going to take my YG67, which is my second darkest, and I am going, actually no, sorry, I'm going to take my YG07. We're going to leave this the lightest, so I'm just going to leave that the YG03, and then I'm going to make this, because this side's facing away from the light. I'm just going to add this to this side, and I'm just going to cover over the YG03 that I put down. And now this side looks lighter than that side. And I'm going to add a little bit to the top, back. And actually might just add a little bit of shading where the bow is here. You could always do this YG03, this YG07, this YG67. As long as they're in the same area, it should be fine. I am going to come in with my darkest and add a little bit of shading where the ribbon is. So just coming over where my bow is here. And I say this is the box lid, and I'm just going to come around that. Basically just adding a little bit of shadowing, because your ribbon is on top of your box. Oh, same up here. Like I said, I always tend to do this wrong. So keep practicing. If you're like me and you have a struggle with it, eventually you'll get it. Going in with my YG67, I'm just going to blend it out a tiny little bit. My shadows. I did it wrong again. That's okay. I think I just need to simplify my boxes. Then I'm going to come back in with my YG07 on this side of my box. Blend that out a little bit. Hopefully bring back in my shape of my box. And YG03. Oops, sorry, forgot to put that back on the top. That looks better than the last one. So you could decorate your box. I did it with gel pen on my last one. I didn't really like how it looked. So I'm just going to leave it. I'm just going to leave the green. And so now I'm just going to do the earmuffs in the red. So taking my R24, which is my lightest, and I just come around the back side of the earmuff here. Sorry, I moved my fingers out of the way. I just realized I just forgot to tilt my camera a little bit better for you guys. But I'm just putting this red right up against the face. If you're worried about the red, because I know people sometimes are like, oh, red bleeds. You don't have to use this combo. You could use something else. And then I'm going to take my darkest and follow where I just put my lines. Sabrina added lots of nice curly lines in this set, so you can just follow the lines, which is nice. And I'll give you the shape of your earmuffs. Then I come above on the headband, and I'm just extending that out a little bit. That was my R89. Sorry if I didn't say that. Then I'm going to go down to my R39, which is my second darkest. And just doing like we usually do. Just blend it out until I get to the R24 again. That was R39. Sorry, I just realized my thing slipped out of the view. Then I have my R37. And just going around each one, leaving a little gap for my R24. And this time I'm going to just take, since my second light is just come around this side too. Sorry, again, my fingers are probably in the way. Probably a little too late to tilt my camera. Oop. Totally the wrong way. Move that way over so you guys can see. I'll try and maybe angle it a little bit too. Still trying to figure that part out. I'm still pretty new to filming my videos or my lives. I'll work on it. Oh, see, my fingers are still in the way. Okay. Didn't matter. Sorry. I'm going to take my R24 and just where I left all the white, just dabbing that in. Always leave it white areas if you want. But I just kind of hit the highlights on there with the red. Now for my present, what do I want to do? Just want to color my bow in. I am going to do it in, I'll do it in the R24. And I'm just going to color the whole bow in with the R24. It's so small that I'm not going to worry about doing too many layers, unless it looks really silly, but it should be fine. One thing I missed was this edge here where the box is. So you can either do that in the red, or I'm just going to go back to my G29 and color that in. Oh, thanks, Mary Pat. Feel like I'm kind of rushing, but we're almost done, and I just don't want to take all day for you guys. Something I have to learn is patience a little bit myself. There. Now, again, like I said, you could add, I tried to add a little stripey pattern to my box. I'm just going to leave it today. One thing I didn't add was, if you're looking at your image, you're like, I feel like I'm missing something. Up in his face, I do want to add a tiny bit of texture, but I wanted to wait till it dried a little bit. So I'm just going to add my W3 back in and just add, again, little dabbies. And I'll just give them a little bit of texture around, and I'm not going all the way over. Move my fingers out of the way in a second here so you can see what I mean. And then I'm going to do on top of his head a little bit more because I didn't actually like how that looked. I prefer it darker. Blend out with the W1 a little bit so it's softer. Down the middle. There. I think he's pretty cute. I like to add in the earmuffs a little bit of texture, so I'm going to add a little bit of white. You don't have to if you didn't like the look of that. But it just makes them a little fuzzier. Adds a little bit of highlight. Okay, I think I'm done here. So normally I would probably let it step away, look at it again, see if I need to add anything, but I'm going to call it done. I'm going to zoom back out so that you can see where I'm adding my owl. And then we're just about done. And I'll show you the one little thing I noticed this morning that I said I promised I would do. So this needs to move up. Sorry, just going to zoom in and then zoom back out. There we go. All right. Actually, kind of like him on an angle like that. So I'm gonna add some pop dots to the top here and the down here, and then add glue to this side and this side. And that way this will sit a little bit more level. I just use pretty thin pop dots. Again, like I said, you could always just add some paper behind it. Oops. And then that way it should level itself out a bit. Just about in the home stretch, everybody. Yep. Okay. Add some glue. The other thing you could do is, which I always forget, is putting my pop dots here and then putting this down so that they're lined up properly, but that's okay. The only reason I'm adding pop dots is because there's a lot of layers down there. That's pretty good, actually. And then I think I'm gonna pop up my owl too. You don't have to if you don't want to. But since I have them out, might as well. There. Now you could always add glitter, you could always add like I like to add sparkly things, but I had said in my blog post this morning, I kind of like that this is a little bit more gender neutral. So, you know, maybe you don't add the sparkly bits, especially since we've got the snowflakes on there anyway. Thank you, Mary Pat. And again, like I said, then the inside has a spot for you to write to and from. And the card's done. So one more thing, I said I would show it to like the last 5 minutes of the video. Just gonna move the card maybe over here, or my mess, it's everywhere. Was one thing I found out this morning when I was looking at the stencil again, was we have a stencil that can make shapes, geometric shapes. And the shapes I found, where's my stencil? There it is. I was looking at my stencil and I went, oh look, you can make geometric hearts. And all I did was I took my stencil and I just basically masked off the little heart that I see in this. The other thing you can do is, here, maybe I'll just grab my post-it notes and I'll show you the shape a little bit better if it's hard to see for certain people. The other thing, so if you wanted to make a heart, I would just mask off the heart shape I see. So down there, down there. And yes, I used a lot of post-it notes for this, but that's okay. I reuse them until they're not sticky anymore. And you could mask this off and then make your background with a bunch of hearts, geometric hearts, which is cute. The other shape I saw was that you make almost a leaf or a feather by masking this off. Which would look really cute if you didn't want to make the fun fold and you wanted to make a feather shape. And there you go. And you can just use your, I like using my stencils in different ways. But I really like the fact that I can make hearts because I love hearts. So that was my little hack for the end of the video. And I'll just pull this off so you can see what I made. And I just quickly inked through it with my blender brushes. But I have my little feather there, or a leaf. Kind of inspired by a necklace I have. That also has kind of a feathery leaf shape. It's almost similar in shape, so I thought that was kind of cool. And then the hearts. And again, like I said, I like I like looking at stencils and trying to find different ways to use them. That's kind of why I did the tree stencil the way I did on my Blue Jay card. And yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this class. I know it was a long one. I tend to take a long time to make a card a lot of the time, and sometimes I screw up like I did. I will tell you how to fix that if you did the screw up like me, but I don't even think it matters if there's not the gray layer. It looks okay. Actually, the gray layer is hard to line up anyway, so maybe you just take that off and you just do, instead of doing the matting layer, you just do the green. Thanks so much, Mary Pat. Thanks for watching, and I don't know if Carla's still here, but thanks for watching as well, and everyone else who joined for the card. Anybody who's watching the replay, if you're not sure about something, or you go, hey Patti, you made a mistake, like I did, and you want to know how to fix it, just go #replay Patti and tag me. And that way I can make sure I can help fix the problem that I made there for you. Thanks, Carla. I appreciate it. Like I said, I'll message you about stuff later. And thanks, Ellie. I didn't know you were still here. Thank you. And I hope everyone has a wonderful day. And if you make this card, let me know. And even if you don't use the supplies on your kit, you can use it for other things too. Have a wonderful Sunday, everybody.